Hello and welcome back. I'm joined now by Matt Sperling, and wow, Matt, Rich Shea just seems to have your number.
Yeah, Rich can't join us. He's cleaning my blood off his boots, apparently. But yeah, I was saying in the chat, I think between my Vintage Champs top 8, which I really wanted to win, and this one, which I kind of wanted to win, but still wanted to win, and one of them I had Rug Pyromancer, one of them he had Rug Pyromancer, but in either case, it was like decided in a turn or two both times. Got Trinisphered out in the top 8 of that. This one just like, everything that could go wrong went wrong, and that's Magic. I kind of took an approach with this season where I was kind of just preparing all in my head, and there was no like robust practice or anything, so didn't expect to do great, but was hoping to do a little bit better than I've been doing.
I think you did some cool stuff. I mean, you'll hear it if you go back and listen to the commentary, but I thought the ways in which you're thinking about Vintage have been really fun to watch. And I think that some of the innovations, like that was definitely true at Eternal Weekend, where I was like, oh yeah, you don't have to play these cards. You could play these other cards instead and just kind of take what we thought was a relatively well understood archetype and actually bend it to come at from a different angle. This looked like another attempt to sort of replicate that magic. It made sense to me on paper.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I mean, yeah, and obviously, like you don't want to throw an idea in the garbage can because of 2 games where you get like Ancestral Lotus. I mean, that could happen. You can design anything you want. That could still happen to you. Now,
Yeah.
not putting Mental Misstep in your deck certainly increases the odds that happens to you.
True.
But yeah, I mean, that's definitely a fun space for me. Just kind of poking around with a core of a deck, whether it's Young Pyromancer or Oath, and saying, okay, well, which of these pieces are extraneous and which ones are core, are really needed, and then with those extraneous pieces, how can I kind of maximize? So yeah, it's always fun to brew that way for me.
Yeah, I mean, I want to say it was fun to watch, but really, it doesn't seem to matter which side of that Rich Shea matchup you're on. Whether you're against the Pyromancer deck, that's been an ugly couple of matches you've played against him.
My deck may be fun to watch. We're gonna have to find out once I get paired against one of these non-Rich Shea people.
We've got 2 of those for you.
Okay, good. You have more. Okay.
We got 2 more queued up. Absolutely.
I was afraid that because it was such a fast match that somehow we'd cycle through and I'd be back with Rich Shea somehow with different decks and same result. But thankfully, that's not the case, is what you're telling me.
All right. Have you thought much about the next 2 decks we're going to get to watch? This is going to be Steve Menendian against Saffron Olive coming up momentarily.
Yeah, I played, as you know, I call this deck Moons Over My Hazy because of Hazaret and all the Blood Moons. I've played this archetype. I've played this matchup. And so it is one that I've thought about, and it's an interesting one. It's unfortunate. I mean, it ends up being one of your poorer matchups from the red side. It's just there's basic lands in the opposing deck. There's you can do things with red mana to kind of buy yourself a little bit of time, although not as many as in Rich's list. So in this matchup, actually, the things you can do with red mana list is actually quite a bit shorter. So take that back. But let's say you get a plains in play and or an island in play. There's not really a whole lot you shut off a chunk of Seth's deck, and then you're just playing with inferior cards. I hope the explosive thing about this kind of free win deck or dragon stompy, whatever you want to call it. I mean, the nice thing is you don't know how powerful that draw is going to be, and there's games where you just lock the opponent out turn 1. I'm sure if Rich Shea picks it up and he gets paired against me, that's the way it'll go. But we'll see if Saffron Olive has that kind of luck tonight.
We will see, indeed. Yeah, should be interesting. How different is Seth's version of the archetype from the one that you ran a couple VSLs ago?
It's different. It's different in terms of numbers, and it ends up being like quite a high number of cards that have changed, but the core strategy is very, very similar. And by numbers, I mean like I only played a couple Ancient Tombs and the City of Traders, like 2 of each as opposed to 4 of each. I played a Strip Mine, so I can maybe try to strip a basic before I get the moons out or whatever. There's a few potential dreams to live in that sense. And then just like which threats you're using, how many Chandras you use, do you like Mana Crypt or not? I found Mana Crypt to be like a must play. Seth tried it, didn't like it. So these are tweaks and small things, fundamentally, though, we're doing very similar stuff.
Fair enough. Sounds like our players are ready. Let's go see what happens. All right, here we go. Saffron Olive on top, Steve Menendian on the bottom. He doesn't have his basic planes, but he has basic island and he has Mox Pearl. Seems like he'll be able to operate. Oh, Null Rod's going to shut off the Pearl. That Ancestral Recall card looked really good against you, though. I bet it's good here, too, huh?
Yeah, I've heard good things about that Ancestral Recall card. But yeah, I mean, you said it. Really, if you're thinking about the list of tools that you want in this matchup, Force of Will has got to be high on the list. Ancestral Recall, Basic Island, Mox Pearl, all these cards are high on the list. And Steve has them all. So
wow, he's thinking about leading with the Strip Mine here. I mean, Seth went Mountain Go, right? That tells you a lot about his hand, I would think, if he's going to go Mountain Go on turn 1.
yeah, there's a sense in which, what's the rush? You're playing control, and the opponent just plays Mountain Go. Okay, there's some logic to the Strip Mine. Also, the fact that like Blood Moon may be emerging in the near term means that Strip Mine, if you prefer Sinkhole to a mountain, then it's kind of sensible.
All right, well, here's Sibian Spirit Guided to Null Rod, which Saffron Olive could have done on the first turn, chose not to. That's going to elicit a Force of Will with Steve's happy, I think, to get value out of his mental misstep. And now, having survived that little flurry, it's time for this Ancestral Recall.
Yeah, that ends up being a 2-for-2 exchange. And 2-for-2s are great when you're sitting on Ancestral Recall.
True story. Quite the mismatched collection of mountains Saffron Olive is running with here.
Yeah, the fetch lands mean that Steve's going to be able to find a basic. Magus of the Moon, which was already kind of turned off by swords, but it's going to be completely anemic. And
Steve gets to shuffle away his Pyroblast, too.
Having said all that, there's not a card in Steve's assortment of cards that matches up well against Chandra, and there are many draw steps that get Seth a Chandra right away in terms of eight double lands. There's 3 more Simian Spirit Guides in the mix. There's a Mox, a Chrome Mox, a Lotus. That's a lot of potential draws. And if Chandra comes out and your plan is, well, source the Plowshares, Mox Sapphire, it doesn't match up. So definitely a puncher's chance here for Seth.
Steve taking a look and sees, okay, I've got the Magus covered. The incarnation there is Hazaret, right?
It is Hazaret the Fervent. Merchant Scroll, a nice find. Force of Will would be a great insurance policy. Just, making sure nothing can go wrong. So that was kind of what Steve really was hoping to find with the probe.
Well, yeah, now he knows Chandra's the thing he has to worry about, so.
Oh,
Dig through time. Greedy.
Wow. Interesting. Even having probed and seen Chandra,
wow,
it's gonna be dig. Okay, well, it's aggressive.
He figured this turn was nice habit. Steve's like, all right, I gotta flip my mana as a response to Magus. Not with his basic planes, but sure.
No, you play around Moto bugs. You play on Moto long enough, might as well play around the bug.
I mean, that's certainly how Steve expected that turn to go, which is why he didn't feel desperate for a Chandra answer. I'm with you, though. 2-mana land off the top would have been super scary.
I think like you have full knowledge of the hand, but you also have full knowledge of the deck list, and there's just a lot of cards that put Chandra into play there. I mean, I get it, though. Look, you get Force of Will, then you don't really have a big advantage. So
right.
Getting dig easily could be right. My first instinct was Force of Will, but it's by no means, a foregone conclusion that, hey, that's what you need to get there. I just would have been pretty petrified of that Chandra hitting the board. But, Chandra comes out, you get to dig. I mean, it's not, there's... you can progress from there.
Steve's main deck, how does Steve remove a Chandra? Like, I don't know what he's playing that can deal with Chandra.
Yeah.
Like Pyroblast? Yeah. Like...
right. Get Dak up to 6. Steal it.
Monastery Mentor and go wide enough.
Sure.
It's a couple of cards. Now if Steve had gotten a Force of Will, all he'd be doing this turn is preordain. Well, or he drew Dak Faden, so
No, I mean he would be
it's an interesting
right.
spot.
Then if he had gotten Force of Will, and then if no, I mean you're right. Then it's like, okay, if I don't have the Force of Will, I just preordain.
Right.
Now, the dig through time, obviously it pays dividends if you get to untap and there's not a Chandra in play. Clearly, it's going to look better. It's just
So that
you
puncher's
expose
chance you were
yourself.
talking about, puncher's chance is gone now, right?
Yeah, I think the window's closed, and the interesting part of this game was really, was there going to be that window for Chandra? There was. The window now slammed shut, and it's going to slam pretty hard.
Ensnaring Bridge. He's like, how do this affects like one card in his list. Just win with a Jace emblem. Don't worry about Ensnaring Bridge.
Yeah, and there's 2 Fragmentize in the main deck, so should there ever be a need to attack, there's multiple ways of getting there. The opponent eventually has to cast a creature to get Hellbent. You can Jace bounce it, and attack with all your mentor tokens. I mean, there are paths even if you didn't have an ultimate, but he does.
Dak Faden is here. Dak Faden looks over. I don't really care to steal that artifact.
No, and Dak Faden with Treasure Cruise, a well-known and extremely potent synergy. All that's left to do here is understand that your opponent has Hazaret and Chandra, and just make sure that something weird doesn't happen where you discard swords, Force of Will Chandra, and then Hazaret somehow can finish the job. Like I can imagine that happening. It's not likely, and there's even some counterplay with Jace get back swords, but Steve wisely keeps the Swords of Plowshares, not even allowing for that possibility, and that makes perfect sense.
Magus of the Moon at number 2 is here.
It's going to be Grey Ogre all over again. Yeah, why not?
All right. Is it good enough to bait the swords?
I wouldn't think so.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it should be.
You flip Jace, you got a perfect way to make it an O2, and eventually Bridge is going to... Oh, yeah, Ensnaring Bridge actually turns off Hazaret. Well, sort of. Hazaret does have an activated ability, but there's an interesting interaction there, or a nombo.
Sure.
You do have to be mindful of that sort of thing when your deck is like a pile of these different lock pieces. I find myself in this box. I like these kind of decks. I like playing stacks with my work. I almost played stacks this week, but I got gun shy. But I almost played stacks this week because I love that deck. And yeah, you sometimes run into like, oh, I've got these 2 plans. I got Lodestone Golem and Bridge, and if I don't deploy them in the right order, one's going to negate the other. That sort of thing is happening here with Hazaret potentially.
Not that any of this seems like it's going to matter.
No, I mean, yeah.
Steve has 2 active Planeswalkers. He's holding a Treasure Cruise and a Force of Will.
In a different, there's a different game that exists potentially where those cards affect the outcome. The outcome of this one's kind of already been determined. Okay, it is going to be swords.
Well, there's a Library of Alexandria we got to turn on now. Magus of the Moon was going to stop him from drawing an extra card every turn.
Yeah, I don't like that swords play. I mean, I guess again, Hazaret is shut off by the bridge.
And he's got Jace to fly. He's got Jace to go get it back. I think is why he feels.
He's got extra tools. I mean, I get it. I guess it doesn't really matter.
I really think it was. I think it was Library that pushed him over the top.
Yeah, and I don't want to say it just doesn't really matter. You can pull so far ahead with any of these paths that he saw one totally reasonable, took it. Yeah, makes sense. Oh, now it's Time Walk. Oh, the Library is already played, so all right. It looks like we are one untapped step away from the Dak Faden steal stuff phase of the game because Time Walk will let it get there.
Oh, Rod takes away 2 mana.
Yeah, it's
not enough to care.
Irrelevant. Now it's Dak, discard Lotus Land, Time Walk. It's just, again, there's no wrong way to eat this Reese's, as they say. It all works. squeeze a library activation in there. Why not?
Now we get to find out how quick Saffron Olive is on the concede button.
Yeah, you saw me deploy 2 different strategies. Game 1, I said, "Okay, enough's enough. I got some interesting things to do." Game 2, okay, I could see that it was going to end with me with no permanence in play, and I figured it's happened to me before. Um, might as well let the folks see it happen again.
I thought the best part of commentary, the best part we did in analyzing the game state was to predict precisely when you were going to concede. 2 turns ahead of time, we said Matt will concede when that dig through time goes on the stack. And we were completely correct.
Wow, nice. I didn't even know when I was going to concede. You guys knew before I did. That's impressive.
I mean, it helps when you can see the hands.
Right.
And then, yeah, game 2, you went out on your own terms. No permanence.
I wanted to just nature's claim that Sylvan Library, just kind of take my ball and go
Of
home.
course, that's your Sylvan Library.
Make sure my opponent didn't accidentally shuffle that into their deck and walk off with my legends.
Oh, that's smart.
Okay, first thing that jumps out at me with the sideboard: different editions of Pyroblast.
The Pyroblast jumped out at you, not the like motley assortment of mountains?
Well, it looks like there's a deliberate hodgepodge of mountains, but I find it difficult to believe that one Pyroblast.
His ensnaring bridges have 3 different borders.
Okay. All right, I stand corrected. It looks like that this is deliberate.
A lot of work went into that. Like, you can't just stumble into 3 different borders.
Yeah.
Hard to do in a game that's really only had 2 artifact borders in its history. Somehow he found 3.
Yeah, it can be kind of annoying to sideboard against the mono red because I mean it's nice that you get like missteps and some other like cards that maybe you want to take out, but it's like now Pyroblast comes in. I kind of want misstep. How much do I value artifact removal? How much do I value creature removal? None of those is obviously better than the thing in the other bucket. So sideboarding's easy when it's like, okay, I don't want this bucket. Like things that mess with spells, those are out, and I want my artifact destruction, whatever. I'm playing at shops, fine. This is not that. I might want to get a Null Rod off the board. I might want to get a Goblin Rabblemaster off the board. I might want to bolt something. I might want to, Earthquake with a subterranean. It's like, it's pretty delicate. One of the advantages of this red deck, in my experience, people show up with the wrong cards. Like you sometimes will just smash somebody with creatures, and they've got like answers to your Null Rod and Chalice in their hand.
All right, that all makes sense, but I do have to acknowledge, chat, I'm wrong. It's 4 different ensnaring bridge borders. Not 3, but 4. The first one just blended into the Grafdigger's Cage in my eyes.
Oh yeah, that's the
It's impressive.
Magic 25 or whatever that set was called.
Yeah, it's like it's even got different coloration on the words than the other new bordered artifact.
Yeah, and it drives me nuts when you load a deck and from text and you've got like you own like 3 of this one, 3 of that one, and you're putting 3 in your deck and it'll pick 1 of this one too. I mean, it drives me nuts.
Yeah.
I own 4 Flusterstorm, but 1 of them is Commander and 3 of them are something else.
Okay.
And sometimes it even tells me I don't own the correct number of copies. Like I try to go 2 and 2.
Right.
Anyways, but
I've been there. We've all been there.
All right, so we got a quick peek here. All right, some interesting. I love a start of Null Rod and then a deceptively ready to play Chandra.
Sure.
I like that conceptually.
Steve lets the Null Rod resolve, holds on to his Force of Will. He's got a Bi-Force ready to cover it, and I mean, he doesn't have that many artifacts he cares about in this deck. Would you still have Null Rods in your deck from the red side in this matchup?
My opponent has all 5 Moxen, and they're a way to get out of Blood Moon.
It's a good point. Yeah, no. Steve, because he's got Mentors, he does not have just the on-color Moxes. He has all of them. That's a good point.
Yeah, but I mean, the only 2 of them get you out of Blood Moon. I don't know. Seems fairly poor, but it depends on what he's taking out. He may be taking out a card that's even less effective.
Here we go with the turn 2 Chandra off the Simian Spirit Guide, like you predicted. But that has Force of Will. All right. Steve has survived the initial onslaught. Now what happens?
Well, So
I think I might have like one null rod in my deck if I was Seth, by the way. I don't know how many he actually has, but the first one
yeah,
seems reasonable.
yeah, the second one is pretty heinous. The Now Steve here with interesting choice, interesting in my view, because Jace kind of walks into potentially another Chandra Fiery Confluence, whereas something like Merchant Scroll play a little safer, or go get something like Ancestral even. I don't know. I don't know which way he's gonna go. It wouldn't surprise me to see Jace and then plan on Merchant Scroll for Ancestral next turn. Wouldn't surprise me to see it get it now. Even getting Force of Will as an insurance policy is not at all crazy. Yeah,
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I think he's going to get Ancestral. We got Dig Through Time last game. You definitely get Ancestral here. This one seems
yeah.
like a more obvious card drawing spot to me than the last one.
So that becomes a really critical draw step for Seth to get something like a Chandra on board and be playing from an advantage.
Yep.
You just can't play behind now. 8 cards against 3. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, Seth. Once it was like last game, there was that one turn window where Seth could have stuck a Chandra. He just needed fast mana. This time he needed the Chandra. Again, he had the one turn window, but could not pull it off.
Instead, it's Saffron Olive doing his best Matt Sperling impression while Steve does a Rich Shea.
Yeah, our playoff scenarios are kind of compressing in a hurry. You got the fatal third loss last round. Saffron Olive looking like he's going to pick it up here. Not a lot of time left for him to get something going in this game.
Oh, I don't like that play.
Well,
Fetch.
there's Chandra.
Yeah, I don't like fetch, but don't ponder. I mean, I like ponder. Try to find force of will, because you gotta start thinking about the list of things that could go wrong, and Chandra just has to be at the top of the list, right? Anything else like mystical tutor for balance solves almost every other problem. Yeah. So, I mean, it's easy for us to say, although I had that feeling before the Chandra was drawn, so I'm gonna go ahead and take credit for it.
No, you've been pointing to Chandra as the key card for Saffron Olive the whole time. Now what? Now what does Steve do? What does he mystical tutor for against a Chandra?
I mentioned a number of buckets of type of answers for this control deck. You got cards that deal with artifacts, cards that deal with creatures, cards that maybe counter a spell, and or remove. None of those, none of those is a way to solve the Chandra problem. And no, Steve now has a big Chandra problem.
Interesting. We may have written him off a turn too soon. All right, game on. What are you going to mystical tutor for, Steve Menendian?
Yeah, good question. Like something like Time Walk. I mean, it seems perfectly reasonable. You go Time Walk, Baby Jace, and you're kind of like, it's probably hard to do better than that. Yeah, Time Walk revealed.
You get to flashback your Ancestral.
Or your Time Walk, depending on like what dig, what you're planning on.
Right.
You get to dig first, and then it goes deep. It's pretty powerful.
All right, Time Walk is in fact what Steve got. So here's Time Walk. Here's presumably Baby Jace. Yeah, I guess Steve, that last turn, the Chandra window turn, he wanted to leave up Mystical because he looked at how good this Time Walk scenario would be. Now he's got a Force of Will. A little late. So he can flip Jace. He can flash back his choice. He's got Dig Through Time online as well. Feels like this turn is Time Walk plus Dig Through Time.
Well, yeah, I think it's Dig Through Time, reassess, but fair enough. Yeah. Sure, he might as well. You can loot first. I don't have a problem with that.
Wants that information before he makes his Dig Through Time decision. Makes sense to me. Oh, he also needs to flip Jace before he eats his graveyard.
Well, he would eat 6. Yeah, looks like you're right. Would be just short.
Goes ahead and flashes back to Time Walk. It's like, there's no reassessing necessary. I don't care what these 7 cards are. I'm going to want the next turn. Leaves himself an Ancestral and left the Merchant Scroll as the other card in the yard.
So what are the way? I mean, obviously, Monastery Mentor is pretty good, although Fiery Confluence matches up. Again, there's Force of Will, so it's
It looks like he didn't get much. He got Preordained Brainstorm. Or no, he got Land Preordained. Land
Preordained, which he's got access to a lot of card manipulation here. Brainstorm, Ponder, but the list of cards that are good against Chandra is just not a long list.
Right? No, I think he's in. Is he actually in trouble? He's drawn so many cards. There's 30 cards left in his library. Right? 35 cards. Still. He's outdrawn Seth by 14 cards.
Yeah, if he has something that beats Chandra, he's gonna find it. Is there like a Pithing Needle in his list? Let me pull up his list just to get a sense of it.
Yes, there's one Pithing Needle in the sideboard. If he brought in the one Pithing Needle, that's probably what he's digging for.
I hope he brought it in. I mean, he's playing his deck with 4 Chandra. Yeah. I mean, there are other remote possibilities. We mentioned ultimating Dak, and obviously there's...
You can ultimate JVP and Decken.
Yeah. Chandra deals 2 damage to Planeswalkers if she chooses, right? So, what do you do with the Chandra here? Do you simply plus it, see what you find? Yeah, play Lotus first, why not?
Steve was nice enough to fragmentize your null rod.
Or do you Fiery Confluence to try to wipe that other baby Jace and then go up on Chandra if it or down, I don't know. I'm trying to think what exactly the right way to approach this is. Fiery Confluence, it's 2 damage to each opponent, so it can't hit walkers, right?
2 damage to each opponent, does not hit Planeswalkers.
So that's unfortunate. You maybe start with that and use the mode of Destroy Jace, right? Like the 2 creatures. Chandra does hit walkers, right? I don't know that answer to that either. Let me see. I hate that update so much.
Yeah, you can no longer rely on the card wordings, right?
You have to go to Oracle every time. 2 damage to each opponent. No, so they're both each opponent, so neither one of those can stop the other Jace. Wow, that draws a force. That's super interesting. So now the Chandra plus is good, but it may need a minus. Yeah, it's gonna minus. So yeah, things got really interesting. Look at what's left in Steve Menendian's hand. I mean, it's just all air. The deck is just air. If that needle didn't come in, I don't even know what he's trying to find. Mentor? What are we gonna Ancestral here?
Jace went down and is off the board.
Is there a Fire Ice? This is where Fire Ice shines, but I don't think he has one. Let's just dig. Okay. Yeah.
Seeing 7 cards from a 33 card library that I don't think he has shuffled since the last time he cast Dig Through Time.
Dak Preordained. You're just gonna see the whole deck. It might be just 60 card fold to Chandra. He's not gonna have a Pyroblast in his deck anymore. Was this a game 1? Where are we? No, this is not game 1, right?
Game 2, Steve's up a game.
So he's not gonna have a Pyroblast to even ultimate and steal.
Nope.
It's just Pyroclasm, Swords. Yeah, it's all the wrong answers. It's balance. He can kill artifacts. He can kill creatures. He can get his mana out to avoid any kind of Blood Moon type of strategy. But this is the classic problem of wrong answers and a little bit of aggressive play. He opened up a window, and Chandra walked right through it. And what's better here? 2 damage or an ape? Probably the ape. I mean, your opponent's card is still just 1 for 1 it.
True.
But he's got another one in his hand. I don't know. It's like in a fairly tight decision. Yeah, he's gonna play it. I could listen to arguments on either side of that one.
He might play 2 and get blown out by Pyroclasm.
Yeah, I like playing.
Blown out.
I like playing the last card in hand. It's actually, there's a balance visible in the graveyard. You never know, that could get flashback or something, and just why have a stray card in hand? So I don't mind that. All right, but what's more important is that Steve is just on the hunt for something that interacts with Chandra. There it is. Okay. But he does, he does it, and there's no counter magic. So now that needle is exposed. It's just, this game is just interesting to me. Like, it feels like Steve should be way ahead, and he's actually
Yeah.
now with the needle, he's only slightly ahead because there's
Well,
a lot of redraws.
he spent a lot of resources finding that pithing needle. It was a one of. He cast multiple copies of Dig Through Time, essentially digging for it. Right? He's put 12 cards on the bottom of his 27 card library between the digs and the preordains.
Yep. None of those are counter spells. None of those are nothing can get pithing needle back. So I'm now staring at a game state where it's going to be up to Seth to draw something. Now, hopefully I mean, it's going to be, Fiery Confluence we know does it. Ancient Tomb doesn't.
Ancient Tomb does not deal with pithing needle. All right. Now Steve gets to untap. He's got a Gush. He's got a Jace. He's got a Dak.
Wow. What a good game came out of nowhere here. I thought this was going to be 2 quick ones.
Agreed.
Yeah, the ability to hardcast that Force of Will essentially locks it up.
There's Monastery Mentor.
Okay, so
nice to have a blue card to go with it, not gonna lie.
So we need some kind of bizarre Steve overextend where both the mentor and the token, like the mentor, the tokens, and the needle are all exposed to a Fiery Confluence. That confluence has to happen without Force of Will being able to stop it. And then, if all that comes together, we may see an unlikely victory. There's not really a reason, I don't think. Oh, wow. Steve is going to cast this.
Okay, he Ancestral. Jace went down so that he could Ancestral. Now he's got a blue card. Yeah. Note that he did play the Ancestral before the Monastery Mentor. I don't think he was going to commit Monastery Mentor to the board if he didn't have a blue card to pitch to Force of Will.
Yeah.
And Seth says, I can't beat that. And we are done. Steve Menendian picks up his 3rd win of the season, gets his record up to 3-1. Saffron Olive joins Matt Sperling in the 1-3 bracket. So Seth is not going to make the playoffs, and Steve just needs to win one of his next 2 if he's going to get there. The next match is Steve against you.
Yeah, he's got a good matchup. 4 Fragment Ties against the Oath deck. It's gonna be an uphill climb. I had a chance to play a match or 2 of this this afternoon. And they were fun. I think I won 1 and lost 1, but felt pretty lucky to win 1. So he's got the wind at his back here, but I'm gonna try my hardest to play spoiler, certainly.
All right. Well, good luck to you. Don't go anywhere. We've still got plenty of vintage coming up tonight.